Now we can really understand what the meaning of music is. It's the way it makes you feel when you hear it.
If you've been on social media, chances are you've heard this.
There are two things we should never have to chase. Being true friends, to be themselves, being loving person, to make time what they want to make. You just have to leave individual differences and appreciate them the way they are. Because love is the most powerful medicine.
The piece you just heard is called Jacob in the Stone, originating from the original soundtrack from the 2022 A24 film, Minari. The score was written by composer and indie artist Emile Mosseri, and I hope he knows just how profound of an emotional effect this music has had on people. To many, it's no news that this music has had quite an overwhelming reception. It's been circulating social media for quite some time now. People from all around the world are expressing in different languages their grievances, their mistakes, their heartbreak, their joy, and gratitude, all in response to this soundtrack. It's almost as if this music reveals an existential burden that people can't help but respond to. Many have even admitted they're not quite sure why this music emotionally paralyzes and disrupts them. So what can we take away from this response? What can it reveal to us as human beings? Hi, my name is Elijah Siegler, and I'm a musician, composer, artist, and producer. Last year I posted a cover of Jacob in the Stone by Emile Mosseri, and the response has been quite surprising to say the least. So this made me curious, why has this music yielded such an overwhelming emotional response from people? When beginning to understand a piece of art or music, it helps first to hear from the creator or the composer.
My goal was to kind of have sadness and nostalgia and longing and pain alongside more positivity, inspirational love, these types of feelings. My goal was to have both of those things written into every single cue. I felt like that was the goal, was to have both coexisting together within each piece of music. Because it is an uplifting film, it is an inspirational film, but it's also a deeply sad film, and there's a tremendous amount of struggle and pain in that experience, and they're all experiencing this struggle together. And I feel like there had to be some struggle in the music and some dissonance and some darkness too, but not have that overshadow the love that's sort of beating at the core of the family.
As you just heard, Emile's thematic direction was very clear. The relationship between the music and the film's story and characters are closely tied. Emile wrote this score almost as a removed and separate hovering life form that follows the characters around throughout the film, almost existentially outlining the universal human emotions that the characters feel throughout the story. That's probably one of the primary reasons as to why this score resonates with so many people, most of which have never seen the film. So we know that the composer meant for the music to be painfully nostalgic, but what about it musically and sonically makes it so devastating? One incredibly influential trend in music history is that of the minimalist movement. If you're not already aware of what the musical concept of minimalism is, here are a couple of popular examples you may recognize. The musical style, known as minimalism, emphasizes repetition, shifting rhythmic patterns, and composition concepts that extend beyond traditional classical music. What minimalism tries to achieve is accessibility. It does this through progression in simple, repeated musical phrases. Another example can be found in the well-known Oppenheimer soundtrack, where Ludwig Göransson, the composer, repeats the same patterns of notes on a violin section under a minimal set of dramatic chords with shifting rhythmic patterns. It's almost as if this technique allows for the listener to fall in an emotional trance. When music is bouncing from one emotion or tempo to another, like in a 19th century opera or in an avant-garde jazz piece, it requires the listener's full attention to follow along with the sudden shifts and changes in the music. This can result in an experience that is less self-reflective and more analytical. That is, if you find complex music compelling in the first place. Minimalism, on the other hand, offers a more thematically focused atmosphere. This is one of the great reasons why it is so common in pop and film music. People can feel a repetition of happiness, pain, anger, motivation, through a set of familiar progressions. Whatever the intent may be, minimalism has shown itself to be an extremely powerful musical tool to emotionally engage an audience. When we hear the phrase, less is more, I think no piece of music embodies that sentiment more perfectly than Jacob and the Stone. This music only uses 3 chords with a slow-moving melody traveling downward on a major scale. In other words, it's really quite simple. Very simple. Charles Cornell, a well-known music YouTuber, made a video on the music from Minari. In this video, he offered an insightful observation that the melody of Jacob and the Stone almost mimics the sound of a person crying. I couldn't agree more. Similar to what Charles said in his video, whether people notice it or not, I believe the slow-moving nature of the music's tempo and the downward motion of the melody subconsciously reminds people of their own experience with crying. When people passionately respond to a piece of art or music, they generally are pulling from their own subjective experience. In this case, I believe people are subconsciously pulling from their experience with grief and sorrow. And not only that, people are being reminded of times of despair, but in a general sense, for those who resonate with this music, people are being confronted with beauty altogether in an overwhelming potency, whether in tears of sorrow or joy. The music being a sonic reflection of weeping only enforces the nostalgia or personal intimacy of the piece according to the listener. And keep in mind, this isn't my personal subjective experience alone, but the experience and voices of many I've met in person, and hundreds if not thousands of testimonies online regarding this soundtrack. When we listen closely to Jacob and the Stone, it's not only the trance-inducing minimalism, the slow-moving wailing-like melody that's so powerful, but the sonic ambience and immersive experience of it all. The high strings, the hauntingly beautiful vocals, the warm nostalgic pads, they all deliver a stunning, tear-inducing, overwhelming feeling. The way a piece of music is communicated through sound is vital to how it's emotionally received by the listener. Emile Mosseri has an intuitive audio engineering ability to fill out the frequency spectrum with a poetic soundscape. Because of that, Jacob and the Stone achieves beautiful sonic immersion perfectly, if you ask me. It's truly amazing to see a beautiful piece of music with such a wide emotional reception. I believe people naturally gravitate towards art that reflects the nature of their own human experience. In the case of the Minari soundtrack, it's almost unavoidable to feel something. Personally, when I listen to this score, it's as if I can envision every one of my memories, every heartbreak, every smile, every moment. They all cascade before me. And lastly, to end this video, I'll leave you with this.
And the most wonderful thing of all is that there's no limit to the different kinds of feelings music can make you have. And some of those feelings are so special and so deep that they can't even be described in words. You see, we can't always name the things we feel. Sometimes we can. We can say we feel joy, pleasure, peacefulness, whatever, love, hate. But every once in a while, we have feelings that are so deep and so special that we have no words for them. And that's where music is so marvelous, because music names them for us, only in notes instead of in words. It's all in the way music moves. You must never forget that music is movement, always going somewhere, shifting and changing and flowing from one note to another. And that movement can tell us more about the way we feel than a million words can.